All right, we're live. Welcome to the Lovecraft eZine podcast. Today is November the 19th, 2017, and we have a surprise guest panelist who's not a guest panelist. He's a regular panelist, but hasn't been here in a while. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Mike. Hello, everybody.
We were missing you and worried about you. So let's do introductions, and then let's start with, we're going to talk about Peaslee papers, a few other things, whatever you guys want to talk about, just shout it out. We don't have a guest today. And I'll start off with getting a report from Joe because he looks great, but I know he's still on the glacially slow road to recovery, and he's got rehab to do and everything. So I'll let him give us a little report first. So let's do introductions and prizes, and then talk to Joe, and then we'll talk to Pete about Peaslee papers. Rick, let's start on your end, work our way over.
I'm Rick Lay, writer.
And Philip's here today. Hey, Philip.
Hey, sorry. Hey, Philip Fracassi. I'm a writer and a screenwriter. It's great to see Joe. This is a nice surprise. I'm very excited. Yeah. I was excited to be here already, and now I'm doubly so. Well,
I didn't want to Joe and I kind of put the wheels in motion earlier today, but I didn't want to tell anybody in case, it's midnight for him there right now, and that's hard enough when you're in good health. So Pete.
I'm Pete Rawlik, author and editor and writer of this monstrosity.
The Peaslee papers.
Peaslee papers.
And hey, Paul, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Pauline Delina. I'm a Patreon subscriber.
Paul's at that level of Patreons where he can be a guest panelist on the show once a month if he wants to. So, Matt.
Hi there, I'm Matt Carpenter. I'm still plodding along on Hickman's Gallery. I have a prize.
Yes, prize.
It's a good one. I thought we'd given it away before, but maybe we haven't. It is the graphic novel published by PS Publishing, Some Notes on a Non-Entity, with text by Sam Gafford, illustrated by Jason Eckhart. And it has the life of HPL in graphic novel form.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I think something fell through the cracks, but I'm not sure what.
Oh, well, someone will, if they call complaining, I'll send them that and send something else out.
Okay.
What can you do?
Kelly.
I'm Kelly Young. I am the executive editor of Strange Eons magazine.
And then Joe, our special, usual, regular guest.
I'm Joe Pulver, writer, editor.
All right, so in case I forget, as I sometimes do at the end of the show, if you want to get in on this prize that Matt just mentioned, send an email to lovecraftezineprizes@gmail.com, lovecraftezineprizes@gmail.com, with the title of a graphic novel in the subject of the email, and then whatever else you want in the body of the email, if you want to say something to the show, to us. What's that title again, Matt? You're muted.
I'm mute. It's Some Notes on a Non-Entity. I'll post a picture.
Some Notes on a Non-Entity. That's right. Okay. So, Joe, hey, give us a report where you and your wife, Kat, are at right now.
Kat's vision is slowly getting better. She is just starting to be able to read a little bit. All her problems were brought on by vast amounts of stress over me.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And I, of course, collapsed one night and was taken to the hospital and then taken to another hospital. They thought I had a stroke. I didn't have a stroke. I had a large cyst on my brain, which ultimately they removed, and was in the hospital for a while, quite a while, and I'm home, slowly recovering, waiting to restart rehab so I can, there's cognitive problems with my eyes, and I can't read because everything's so blurry because I have a cataract in each eye, which will be operated on once rehab is over and they can be scheduled. So I'm in some ways getting better, in other ways getting worse.
Well, besides everything else that you're going through, it's got to be hard not to, I mean, we all love books. You love books. And it's got to be hard not to be able to read.
Yeah, I can't read. And unlike you, Mike, I was never a fan of, I'd like to hear authors read live, but I don't like audiobooks. I want to read it myself. Yeah, I can't read. I can't write, of course, because I can't, if I go to type,
can't see.
Yeah, trying to type it, even though I know the keyboard, because I use it so much, it's really hard to use. I want to be working. I want to know what's come out. I mean, the last time I felt good before any of this started, John Langan's collection hadn't come out yet. And that was what? Jeez.
Yeah, months ago.
Well, months ago, So as far as I know, it came out. I haven't heard about it. I haven't, because I haven't been around. I don't think I've actually even been on social media in 2 or 3 weeks. And previous to the last time I was on social media, I did a health update on Cat and me, and that took me an hour to write. I have no idea what kind of typos were in it or anything, but
yeah, I was gonna say it's not like you can read the responses to that either.
No, and that's it. Yeah, that's the thing is, I can't tell if anybody even liked it.
Oh, they did.
And
concerned about you.
Which I appreciate, and we've had people tell us that, and all the well wishes and prayers they really, really helped. I really want to thank people for that. But the last time I even tried anything on social media, I had gone up into the settings and I had made it 250, Zoom, just to try and read some of it,
Yeah.
But that got to be far too arduous a task, so,
Well, you have a lot of fans and friends who, like I said, have been really concerned about you. I'm really, really happy that you were able to come on today. I know you won't be able to last too long. What is next for you and for Kat as far as the next part of the process of this down this road?
As far as Kat, she's just day by day. Like it's now been about a week where she's starting to see color again. Red, she can see very easily. She think she sees blue sometimes, but it's actually green. And sometimes, depending on whatever, she sees yellow quite well. So color's coming back. She can start to read a little bit, but it's difficult. So she's improving a little. Like you said, glacially is perfect. There's no rhyme or reason. It's like just try to, keep the stress gone and just breathe and let it come back on its own.
Yeah.
For me, my vision will continue to get more and more blurry. There'll be supposedly some improvement once rehab is done. And rehab begins again on the 28th for probably 3 weeks, but it may be more depending on what the doctors see near the end. Once rehab is done, then we can schedule the first cataract surgery. And when that's done, we can schedule the second. So, and healing from each one will probably take me a month. So at this point, I'm December, January, February from being beyond all the vision aspects of this.
So the hope is that sometime around February or so, your vision will be better than it is now.
End of February, yeah.
Okay.
And the doctor is strongly believes that I won't need glasses for anything at that point. That, yeah.
Really?
No distance, no reading. I should just be, I'm not sure it'll be 2020, but he thinks it'll be close. So
Yeah.
I wish I'd known about any of this a long time ago, because I just thought I'm aging, and my vision's getting a little worse and a little worse and a little worse,
Right.
So.
Well, when I called you guys today, Kat said something about, with the rehab and everything coming up, saying that if you were to come on the show, this is kind of your last chance for a while to pop in. So is that right?
I may have early doctor's appointments coming up that I don't. I mean, she normally tells me, don't forget, Monday morning you gotta. Oh, okay. I didn't, because I forget that stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, once rehab starts on the 28th for 3 weeks, I need to be up at 6 a.m. every morning. So,
wow,
kind of makes this a little difficult.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah.
Well, the most important thing is that you get better.
Yeah, thanks. And again, to everybody who sent us all the different kinds of support that was sent us, it really, really meant a lot. And I really want to thank everybody. And thanks to you for sharing updates and stuff, Mike. That was great, because I know people are wondering, and like I said, it was really, really difficult for us to do anything about it. But it's great seeing everybody,
Yeah, it's great to see you.
Yeah.
So before we get over to Pete, so tell me, I'm going to publish a novella of yours that I don't think anyone's heard of except for me. and cat, I'm assuming, called A Long, Dark, Grim Road. Without any spoilers, you want to just tell us what it is?
Yeah, it's 120 years ago. You have a couple of people who have been sent from Rome, from the church, north and east into to root out evil. And it's quasi-Derlethian as far as good and evil. Not that the Cthulhian elements in there are evil unto themselves, but we're men. We perceive things as good and evil. And they're in very barren, dark waters, small villages, single family little farms, and they're getting rid of these worshippers of what they perceive as hands of the devil. They don't see these things as a Cthulhu type of thing, this worship. They think this is devil worship, a form of devil worship.
Yeah.
And it's all about these guys as they move through this landscape. And,
well,
with their American Winchesters.
Yeah. Well, I loved it, and it's very, very dark and grim. Well, grim's right in the title.
Well, I want it, and the other thing too is part of the length is I wanted the reader to actually travel this road with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long, dark, grim road. It's like day in and day out. It's wind and rain and cold and more of the same and more of the same and more of the same. And spiritually, you start thinking there's no end in sight. You're insignificant up against this vast ocean of evil, or in this vast ocean of evil. So, that's what I wanted to achieve, to make this at times really grind on the reader. It's like, to kind of psychologically underscore the journey.
Well, you didn't give it to me, if memory serves, to ask about publishing it. You just kind of wanted to have me read it.
Right.
And it just really grabbed me. So I said to you, I have someone already. I'd love to publish this sometime in the next 6 or 8 months.
I couldn't be more thrilled, so I'm just beyond excited to have you put it out.
Well, you know how you read some things and you're like, that was good, I really enjoyed that, and then you read some other things and you're like, that grabbed me. That really hooked me. It was one of those.
Yeah, cool.
So,
I mean, I spent a long time on it, going back, and I mean, at one point, to me, it sort of became, Bach's Goldberg variations. It's like, okay, let's just change this a little bit because it's kind of the same thing, but it's kind of not, So, I mean, there was a mountain of that. It's like,
yeah.
But no.
So, yeah, and just to let everyone know, A Long, Dark, Grim Road is not a autobiography of Joe's recovery from this health issue.
No, not quite. It almost could be.
The title, yeah.
You know.
All right. Well, I don't have a date on that, but as soon as I do, I'll let everybody know, all the fans know, and yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking 4 or 5 months, something like that. So give somebody some Joe Pulver to read while you're still recovering and you can't write. That's kind of my goal.
I hope to be able to write long before then, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
Beginning of March is what it's looking like at this point.
Okay.
All right.
So Pete, Peaslee Papers.
Yeah. What about it?
Did you write this, or was this Mandy?
Jeez. Man, I've been writing this for a long time. This is another one of those accidental books,
Yeah. So, what made you want to write all of this? I mean, start with Shadow Out of Time, and assume that whoever's listening to you right now doesn't really know anything about this, and what you've been attempting to do here.
So, The Shadow Out of Time for me is one of the critical Lovecraft short stories. It's almost a novella. But it also creates a lot of, it raises a lot of questions, because we go through this whole thing, but when we're just on the verge of discovering the city and, getting into the city, Peaslee leaves. And since it's told from his point of view, we really don't know what's going on there. And at the same time, if you look at the story, Peaslee's traveling around the world. And I covered a little bit of this in Reanimators. I don't like how I said that, Reanimators. It's like Tomators.
Tomators, Reanimators.
Reanimators.
You say Reanimator, I say Reanimator.
Yeah.
Let's call the whole thing off.
where Peaslee is traveling around the world and having adventures, but it's really not him, it's the alien inside him. And I dabbled with writing a few stories here and there about those. And then I was asked to write a couple stories, and I ended up writing stories about his son, Wingate. And then I wrote another story about Wingate, and another story, and another story, and he sort of becomes this sort of spy master for the mythos. And I just kept expanding it, and then I wrote a story for you called "The Time Traveler's Ex-Wife."
Right.
And then Dave Godsword asked me to write a story that turned into The Lost Treasure of Cobbler Kezar. And all of a sudden, I had 50,000 words of stories dealing with the Peasleys.
But more than that, in the book, you set them all in chronological order.
I do. So I cover it's what not even Jurassic, it's Triassic period, kind of like the Age of Fable, with the crucifixion of Yig, where the old ones from Antarctica have decided that the creatures that they've raised up to dominate humanity, the lizard men, the serpent men, have failed their in their duty, and they're going to punish Yig by removing certain parts of his anatomy.
Ouch.
Yeah.
And then each story at the above the title, it's dated.
Yes.
The year.
Right.
For example, the temporary chronologist. Sorry, I'm having the same trouble you are today. 1935.
Right. Well, and that's the temporary chronologist is my attempt to write the story of The Shadow Out of Time from somebody else's point of view. Actually, multiple people's point of view, and put it together so that we find out from other opinions what's going on. And I recently commented on the fact that it seems really, really odd for the Peasleys to actually be in charge of this this expedition, because they really have no experience in this whatsoever. One, Wingate is a psychologist, and his dad is a psychologist and a economist. They have no experience in doing any of this stuff.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, they should take a second seat to what's really going on. They are the impetus for the story, but they're really not that much in control. So, I decided that I wanted to tell the story from multiple points of view from the people that were really there, the had really expertise rather than these two.
So the book starts from before the dawn of time and goes to
the heat death of the universe.
Yeah, exactly. So it spans basically the age of the universe.
Yeah, well, there's
not,
a lot of
not
stuff.
Quite at the beginning, no. But.
There's a couple billion years that I cut out at the beginning, but yeah.
Yeah.
In the great scheme.
But nothing ever happened then.
No. Hold on, I got to let the dog out. Be right back. I'm still here. Okay.
All right. So, Rick, do you have any questions or Rick or anybody else have any questions for Pete on this? I don't want to hog all the questions.
Or I can just win.
I think that's enough.
So,
do you?
Go ahead.
Do you have a favorite of all of these?
So I tried not to write similar stories. I mean, because the stories are told from different points of view and they have different tones, I end up with at least three stories I really like. Oddly enough, I really like Hannah and her mother take a very long lunch.
Great title.
It's a really simple story about two women talking about something and dealing with issues of life and death and time travel. And one of them realizing that she's going to have to change the way she lives or not live at all. The Watchmaker's Lament is my riff off of the off of the Weather Underground. It has some references to that in it, but it's also kind of a rewrite of a really great time travel movie, Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
But with a much darker turn, in which the main character slowly goes insane and has to deal with the fact that he can't find a way out. And then I really do like this idea that I came up with in A Sense of Time, in this idea that we have this idea that there's multiple universes, that every time we make a decision that a new universe can be created,
right,
because of alternate timelines.
Yeah.
But we have this I have this idea that there has to be a limit, and at some point that the energy that created that alternate timeline isn't enough to sustain it from its sisters. That if the only difference between, say, one timeline and the other timeline is what color ball a gorilla picked in some experiment, and then 20 years later everybody who saw that experiment is dead, it doesn't matter anymore to the universe.
Right.
So those two universes collapse back into each other. But the problem is that, or where you take this is that if 1 million years from now the Earth is destroyed, the rest of the universe doesn't really care how it happened. At some point, the why doesn't matter. So how large can you get this and start collapsing other universes into each other? And I wrestled with this idea for a long time, and in the process, the story that came out is A Sense of Time.
Well, why is that personally fascinating? Is it because you think it has a basis in reality, or it's just something that's fun to think about?
Well, I think it's fun to think about. We have a lot of fun playing with the idea of alternate universes, branching off of each other.
Sure.
I want to do the opposite. I want to have alternate universes collapsing back in on each other, and it would be fun to take universes that we would consider very, very different from our point of view and collapse them back into each other a million years from now, because what was important to us isn't important to the rest of the universe.
Yeah.
And
your dog agrees.
Yeah, my dog agrees. He wants a lot of attention. Come here, buddy. He doesn't like being left alone right now. So, yeah.
So,
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, Shadow Out of Time, is this all because it's one of your favorite stories, or is it because of the unanswered questions?
It's some of the unanswered questions. It's some things that I was having fun with. It's the fact that I covered some of this stuff in Reanimators, and I think that the idea that Peaslee was roaming the world for a good long time, doing things, and possibly doing some horrible things to not only understand the world but manipulate it to where it was going, is really a fun idea to play with. That he had, I guess, 5 years or so to go in there and travel the world and do things. And Lovecraft only mentions a few of them, but that's a huge amount of time for an alien, particularly with his knowledge, to do things and maybe tamper with the direction the world's going in.
The Shadow Out of Time is also this really sad story in one sense, because even after he comes back to himself, his wife essentially never forgives him for what happened.
Yeah.
And doesn't care whether it was really his fault or not. Probably isn't going to buy that it was an alien, is the most likely answer to that.
Well, that's the flip side that's one particular point of view. I take the other side, and this is where I get into this sort of actual knowledge. So we usually, when supernatural events occur, we like, oh, okay, yeah, that was a supernatural event. Sure, we get it third, fourth hand. We suspect.
Right.
Peaslee's wife, and his 3 kids, they know. They know something happened. And it's kind of hard, I've kind of built up this family dynamic in my head where, yes, Alice has left him, but she has her own motivations. Wingate, who was the older son, knew him before, and so thus had a relationship with him for a longer period of time before he got changed, so that when he comes back, he can establish go back and fall back on that previous relationship and say, okay, my dad's back.
Right.
But Robert was much younger, really doesn't know his dad when this happens, and thus when he comes back, he has really no motivation to stay and build that relationship. And then there's Hannah. Hannah has her own issues and she has some little side adventures that are going on, but they're all sort of damaged by this event.
Yeah, absolutely.
They know that they may not know exactly what happened, but they know that something happened. And they each deal with it in a different way. Robert goes off to war. Wingate becomes a professor and tries to understand his father's situation. Alice cuts him off, and in a little way, so does Hannah, by moving out of Arkham, at least in my universe.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then even when we get to Australia and we find this a small portion of the city, we don't get a lot of answers. We know that something happened, but we don't know why. We have an idea. We think that things are going to end badly for the human race, and Earth is going to be supplanted. The human race is going to be supplanted by giant insects, beetles, that the great race will then take over. That's what we've been told, but I'm not sure that we 100% buy that. There's a lot of wiggle room in that. So
yeah,
I tried to deal with it a little in here. So.
Rick, you there? No? Do you have any questions for Pete?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Pete.
Yeah.
You're a master of conflation. You combine things like the star-headed old ones and the Krell.
Yeah.
Why do you do that?
Why do I do that? You know why I do that.
I do, but I want
I do that because very early in my career, somebody gave me a break. And they gave me a break on a story called The Masquerade in Exile, in which I conflated Herbert West and the Phantom of the Opera. And I continued to do that. And I've been, because I think it's fun. It's fun to bring in some other things. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm also interested in the idea that the weird fiction universe might be larger than Lovecraft. Mm-hmm. And if I'm able to bring in some weird fiction or science fiction or fantasy or other horror things in innocuously, then I will. But I also do it to have fun and let other people have fun too, because I love when people like Rick say, I know where that's from. And, that was very clever. But, and you do the same thing. And that's one of the reasons I enjoy your writing. Literature should help expand. Each book you read should help you expand and maybe go to look for another book. And I hope someday somebody will be reading one of my stories and go, oh, that's interesting. And then 2 years later, be reading another book and say, wait a minute, Rawlix said, and go all the way back and find it too, and find this secret little in-joke that I put in there.
Yeah.
And there's this huge joke in The Temporary Chronologist about the encabulator. So if you ever get a chance, look, see if you can find what an encabulator is. Okay. There's also a retro encabulator, but
now just to get back to poor Yig.
Poor Yig, yes.
How can he be the father of serpents if you did what you did to him?
Well, poor Yig is the father of serpents, Well, okay, so he doesn't lose his genitalia. He loses his arms and legs.
Oh, okay.
He goes from being a typical. So I look at Dagon and Hydra as sort of the archetypes, mm-hmm. or the deep ones. These sort of avatars, god figures, mm-hmm. and I thought of Yig as the god figure for dinosaurs as well. But as punishment for his betrayal, the old ones, the Krell, have decided that they will partially dismember him. And this is one of the reasons why, it's a backdoor reason for why the Serpent Men never are able to conquer the rest of the world. Right. Because they really have, no future on the planet. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of in the Curse of Yig.
Yeah. Oh, they can still have kids.
No, did he? It looked like he was moving in the shadows, or he had possessed the husband. One or the other. Could be that he possessed it, because it seemed he had arms and legs, or something had arms and legs.
Yeah.
So we'll take that as that he somehow merged with the husband. So we could.
Which would make sense for how he was able to impregnate the wife.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
You're gonna have to clarify. Can you explain your theory of Shoggoth?
Can I explain my theory of Shoggoth? Sure.
Super Shoggoth. Yeah.
Super Shoggoth. Okay. So I have this idea.
There's Shoggoth superheroes.
No, well, yeah, but no, I've done that already. I have this idea that that there are different classes of Shoggoths. Some are simple, some are more complex, and some have different tasks. And remember, these are organic machines that are made to do certain things. And my idea for one of them, one really large class, is that they are the machines that the Corral use to create life on planets. So you have creatures like Abhoth and you caught this probably, Ubu and Sathla,
right,
and Yidra roaming the planet, producing life forms as they're programmed to do so. But as we know, these animals are often, these machines are often rebellious, and they can take on intelligence beyond what they were meant to, and even merge with each other to form one much larger superorganism.
Right, that explains Ubo and Sathla.
Right, so, and this also goes back to my concept of what does that dash mean?
Yeah. So
if you look at Egyptian mythology, you can see where Egyptologists have said, okay, well, by this dynasty, Horus and Ra have become fused, so we'll call that Ra Horus, and they'll put a dash in between them. Well, what does that mean for Ubu Sathla or Shub Niggurath? Does that mean that these were two separate deities that were fused in the minds of their worshippers, or were they fused in the actual reality? So that's where I'm playing with that idea.
I get you kind of have you have that entity, the Sequoia, I think is how you pronounce it.
Which, yeah, it's just another name for Shub Niggurath.
Right, but I'm getting the impression that's a super Shoggoth, and what it merges with is something that wasn't a super Shoggoth. Yeah,
so Shub Niggurath, in my mind, is a Shoggoth, I actually have a whole list of names for all these things.
Right.
I have there's a proto-Shoggoth, a demi-Shoggoth, all this stuff. I'll have to send it to you sometime. But the idea was that she was accidentally exposed to a shard of basically another version of the Shining Trapezohedron.
Right.
So she gets elevated to godhood. And then she is imprisoned on the planet where the Nugsoth dwell.
Yeah, is that your interpretation of the reference in Lovecraft's The Letter that she was born out of darkness?
No, but it works.
I'm just saying it works very well.
It works.
I have a different interpretation of that, but we'll get to that sometime in the future. But that's right. We're never going to be in total agreement on all these.
No, but it's a mythology, right? And
right.
So we can play with it.
Yeah. Because I wouldn't want total consistency anyway. Never works out.
No. So.
All right. Anything else, Rick?
Not for now.
Okay.
You'll beat me up later.
I just gotta remember.
So
I have one question for Pete.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Because I was curious about it. So besides the characters throughout time being, I don't know if infested is the right word, taken over by the Yith, and besides it being the Peaslee family, are the stories interconnected in any way, or is it just the excerpts from throughout history?
So the stories are connected amongst the family.
Right.
So there's a couple stories about Wingate, a couple stories about Hannah and her mother. I can't give it away, but yes, there's a giant connection at the end that goes back to the beginning.
So there's a plot through line that we can't discuss.
Yes, and actually, there's a new story. Actually, there's two stories in here that link to a story that nobody thought was really part of this, but I had always planned for it to be part of this. So, In the Hall of the Yellow King is one of my earliest stories, but it's actually tied to the Peaslee family. And how I got there is laid out in 2 or 3 stories. So, yes, there is an overarching plot throughout the whole thing. It's almost Babylon 5 like that. There's little story arcs within that gets you to where you need to go. So it's the J. Michael Straczynski school of writing. Ooh,
Cool.
I got that book someplace. Anyway.
So the Peaslee Papers is available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. And if you buy the paperback, then you can get the Kindle edition at a reduced price for only $1.99. So that's what they call the matchbook price. I've been doing that with all the books I publish. I think it's kind of a cool thing to do. So yeah, the Peaslee Papers, a Lovecraftian Chronicle. Just go to Amazon and look it up. So
if anybody wants to ask me a question about something in here, because there's a lot of references, feel free to send me an email or a personal a PM on Facebook. You guys don't know where.
Can I just ask you one quick question?
Absolutely.
Who's Dr. Lowe? Is that Dr. Lau?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the Professor Peaslee's Pandemonium is a huge homage to 2 of my favorite movies, Something Wicked This Way Comes and the 7 Faces of Dr. Lau.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun with that. And I was actually surprised that the vast majority of the people that appear in the real people that appear in that story, this actually happened to them. There was a tornado in a small town in the middle of nowhere, and of the people who survived this tornado, many of them, dozens, went on to become very famous. I was just amazed. So I found it very interesting.
So you didn't make that up?
I didn't know. The people I made up were all the monsters.
Yeah.
But all the people that are mentioned, all the real people that are mentioned in that story were actually in that town at the time. So.
all right, so that's available on Amazon, the Peaslee Papers. Philip, can we talk about episode 7 of Stranger Things without spoilers, or at least just a very mild spoiler?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean,
well, first of all, let's ask everybody, what did you think of Stranger Things season 2 in general, and then we can maybe discuss episode 7 real quick.
I liked it and didn't have a problem with episode 7.
I'm not done with it yet, so I can't say.
Okay. All right.
I loved it and absolutely hated episode 7.
Episode 7 is the trip to Chicago?
Yes.
Yeah. It wasn't great. If you were, it's not real. It's not reality. It's an homage to bad films. It's the Class of Nukem High's version of Chicago.
Philip?
Yeah, I keep hearing people find these really generous reasons for why episode 7 isn't terrible. Like, oh no, they were trying to do something horrible. Or oh no, it was no, I've actually heard this before, it wasn't just from Pete. Oh no, he was really, it was purposely bad. And I'm and I just
Purposely bad?
Yeah,
Really?
I think people are very much want to believe that these guys did not screw the pooch when they made episode 7, and I think they did, and I think it was a misstep. And I thought the season was fine. I thought that the without any spoilers at all. I mean, there's not really that many spoilers in this series. It's pretty much is what you think it is. But without giving any spoilers away, because I know our guest hasn't seen it, I felt they took all the stuff, a lot of the things that were very fun and entertaining and energizing in the first season, and they just kind of broke it all apart and tried to do something completely different as far as the characters are concerned in the second season. And to me, that was a step back. And I felt the first season was much more spontaneous and had a lot more energy and was a lot more fun. Whereas I thought the second season was much more, it was fine. It was entertaining. But I think it had lost some of that. I think they lost a little bit of that magic that they captured in the first episode. I also felt they were trying too hard in some ways, ironically, to recapture some of the magic, replacing the Christmas lights in the house with the crayon drawings, things like that. I thought it was too trying a bit too hard. And episode 7, again, without giving anything away, I understand they've come out publicly and explained why they did what they did, but even their explanation falls flat, because the bottom line is, even if you wanted to do a standalone episode like they did that was outside the rest of the storyline, it didn't have to be terribly done. It could still have been a quality episode with characters that were interesting and not completely 2D and not rolling your eyes horrible and on the nose and all that stuff. And it just could, they didn't have to make it. They could have done what they wanted to do and still made a good hour of television. My argument was always been, I don't mind that they tried to do what they did. I mind that they did it so poorly. That's where I come out on it.
The only good thing
you could literally not watch episode 7, and you.
Yeah, the only really good thing that I got out of episode 7, and you're right, you could hypothetically skip it, is at the very end when 11 says, "This is basically her motivation for going back to Hawkins," is because she doesn't want anything to do with what happened in episode 7. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, they created their own dilemma and solved it all in one episode. I have no idea what they were thinking. You're
right. She never had to leave Hawkins to begin with.
It's not technically jumping the shark, but but why you would do something, and this is a criticism I've heard before, and this is my immediate response when I saw it, was this is the kind of episode you have in a series that's been going on for 3 or 4 seasons. And it's going to be going on for 3 or 4 seasons or 5 seasons. In other words, it's your typical network television.
Yeah, like the X-Files did things like that.
Right, exactly. Where X-Files had a lot of these kind of standalone throwaway episodes, and that weren't part of the overall story arc. And I just
feel that were just completely off the wall,
Yeah, they did a lot of goofy, silly stuff I think just to kind of do something different.
Yeah, just for one episode, and they get back to the real deal in the next episode.
I always hated when they did that, by the way.
You did? You hated the off the wall
episodes? Well, I like this. I mean, that's why I have such an issue with this, because I like this. I want to stay with the primary arc of the series. I
can't disagree with that. Like that Christmas episode in the X-Files, where I forget the actors, big name actors were in it. I'm like, this is stupid.
Ed Asner and Lily Tomlin.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you thinking of the Star Wars Christmas special?
Well, that too.
Happy Life Day, everybody.
I don't, because I know Kelly's a fan of that, so I don't want to say anything negative about it.
I'm a huge fan of 12 minutes of Wookiee speak without subtitles right at the very beginning. How could that not draw you in?
It is part of the canon. There are some secrets divulged.
Can I throw this out for the strangest
got Boba Fett because of that thing. It gave us
Yes.
Boba Fett. You have to at least give it that.
That's true.
All right, Kelly.
So the way we're watching television now, especially on Netflix or Hulu, when they dump a full season on us, I think what that does for the writers is it allows them to treat it as a 9-hour film or an 8-hour film or whatever.
Sure.
And if so, this episode 7, then Philip, don't you think kind of drops in as their cave and elixir scene? Because that's how it's treated. And the problem, it's a darker episode. There's something that she learns, and then she's able to go back to her old world with this new knowledge, and then face her inner demon, basically. But I agree with you that. Well, exactly. I agree with you that it was just done very poorly. There was a way to do what they wanted to do in a much tighter scene, and I don't think she needed to go to Chicago for it. I think she could have learned what she needed to learn right there in whatever the name of the town is. I can't remember.
Hawkins.
Yeah. But that's my feeling, is that this was their entry into the third act, the last couple episodes.
Well,
right.
But doesn't the whole series start with that?
Thank you. That was the other thing that drove me crazy. They launched the whole season with this sister, and then they don't even then.
And you only get 45 minutes of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was just weird.
I think it's a set,
and not weird in a good way.
I think it's a setup. Well, it's obviously a setup for the third season.
I hope not. I swear to if I see a trailer for season 3 and it's got, that chick chewing gum with the ribbon in her hair and the guy with the mohawk in it, I'm not gonna. I can tell you right now, I will not be watching season 3.
No, but the good thing that may come out of that episode,
I'd rather see a Wookiee talk for 10
minutes. No, was we had a revelation about a certain character at the end. And you didn't know whether it was a lie or not, and I think it's true.
Honest to God, I think I blacked out halfway through that episode. I don't remember. I think my brain just turned off.
And do every night.
Couldn't take it anymore.
That little vision 11 had, which was, it was an illusion, but it maybe reflect a truth.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. See, I had hoped.
And I would like to see that built upon.
Well, the other thing they could have done in that episode, and then I don't want to overbeat it into the ground, but they also, and this is another thing. So my other argument for people are like, no, it was necessary for her art, for her character arc and all that stuff. Okay, fine. They didn't have to make it so terrible. They didn't have to make the character so 2D and obvious and annoying. And the other thing is they didn't have to make it the entire episode. There's no reason they couldn't have cut back and forth between what was happening with the kids in Hawkins and what was happening to her in Chicago. Like the fact that the whole episode was sort of this thing that was taken and separated and directed by children was, I thought what made it sort of unforgivable. And I mean this very sincerely, and if I see a trailer and that sister's in it, or any of those characters from that episode are in it, I tell you right now, I will not watch season 3. It will not happen. That's how bad, in my mind, it was.
Well, you have to look at the bright side. Episode 8 was probably the best episode of the season right after it.
That's true.
I mean, I was on pins and needles.
They were great.
Don't go there.
But that's what's so disappointing is that, that's what's, I guess, the fall is much farther because the rest of the show is so good and the kids are so talented and the acting is so great, and just to see them do something so destructive was, to me.
But they neatly put it into an episode so that you can skip the whole thing if you want.
I think it's going to be on the DVD. It'll be like an extra, like you can you can watch episode. The asterisk episode, it's available in the extras if you really want to watch something.
What's this about? Yeah, Kelly.
Oh, I was going to say, if you really want to nitpick, the thing to nitpick is that, we had that really touching ending of season 1, and then it's negated by the reveal of 11 and how she comes back, immediately into play. And you're kind of like, well, this was a very big climax that becomes anticlimactic because of the way they have solved it with the beginning of episode 1, season 2.
Another point is you have a different reaction to my reaction would have been different if this was a weekly television show. Because I would have said, why am I going in exit? Because I'm binge watching this, so I don't mind if we go off on a tangent for an hour. But I'm waiting week by week. I'm going, get back to what was going on in Hawkins.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine watching Breaking Bad, and there's an entire episode where the character, the younger guy, can't remember Aaron Paul, what's his name, where he goes and visits, he goes to Toronto and visits his grandfather, and that's the whole episode. People are like, why am I watching this? It has nothing to do with the story. And the grandfather
I think I saw
has a
episodes
mohawk.
like that when I was watching ER back in the day.
Well, that's the thing.
Where they go.
To Rick's point, you can get away with that stuff if you're shooting 22 episodes a season and you've got 10 seasons under your belt and you're just like, let's break it up. Let's talk about something else. It's fine. But man, when you've got such a tight, to your point, it's a feature film broken into
Hang on one second. Joe's got to go. Hey, Joe. Really good to see you, man.
Yeah, thanks. I will see you guys again as I can. Was great seeing everybody.
We love you, Joe.
We love you, Joe.
Yeah.
Hey, love you guys.
Great to see you, Joe. You look great.
Thanks,
Hey
bud.
there, buddy.
Thanks.
Good to
You
see you.
guys do
Get
too.
some rest, okay?
Yep. Take care. Thanks.
All right. So.
Well, so let me just say one thing, because I think I had really hoped that this would play out, that when she found her sister, because the problem with her tattoo and her being called 11 is that I automatically wanted to know where the other 10 kids were. Because when you have 11, or that's a lot. That's a lot of people who know something.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time. But it made a hell of a lot more sense to me if it wasn't 11, if she was 3. If that tattoo was binary. But
I assumed all the other kids were dead.
But even so, that's still a lot of people involved, right? That's a lot.
I honestly think they came up with her as 11 because they could short it to L.
All right.
As an Ellie or
whatever. Yeah.
That's my take on it, anyway.
Yeah, but there's just I like the series. I think it was better than anything I've been watching lately. They may or may not have taken a misstep. But it doesn't. For me, it doesn't. I'm still going to watch season 3, but if it's bad, it's bad. I really wish they would stop creating cliffhangers to move the next season on, because that creates this whole problem of, sooner or later your production is going to go downhill. And this is, most shows don't wait until they have at the end of a good season to say, hey, that's where we end the show. They wait till things start to go downhill.
Well, we were talking about this the other day. At some point, the kids are going to age out.
Well, yeah.
Very. I mean, they might have one more. I mean, I think they're doing a season 3. I think they've announced it, but I can't. I mean, unless the show ages. Like, I think somebody said something about jumping to the 90s or something, but
it's the Harry Potter problem. The kids are growing up faster than you can make the movies. And that is problematic.
Luckily for the Chronicles of Narnia, they didn't have that problem.
No.
because the movies were so bad. They
I'm
just
not sure the producers call that luckily.
yeah. Luckily for us, the viewers, not luckily for the guys who invested $1 billion. I guess one thing that's of interest, if you want to dovetail into something else, which I thought was kind of cool, was interesting in ways. That, speaking of Chronicles of Narnia, is the announcement of the Lord of the Rings TV show.
Oh yeah. Now I think
yeah,
some people are excited about this. Other people are going, they could do anything but Lord of the Rings.
You know, the thing is, they aren't going to do the main story. It's going to be like
it's a prequel.
It's going to be like Frodo's second cousin Ernie Baggins goes to Bree and has some adventures.
Oh, great! You spoiled it.
Isles of Ham.
Yeah,
Baggins.
Farmer Giles and Ham.
I wouldn't mind if they did the Silmarillion stories.
Well,
No,
I've heard that's
what
actually
they'll probably do is they'll do young Aragorn.
yeah.
Is that like young Indiana Jones?
Yeah, except for me, like having hot sex with an ent wife.
Well, would be I would be interested
in.
I wouldn't mind seeing a series about when he was Strider and all his adventures as Strider before he met up with the hobbits. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, what all did he do? Yeah, that's a good point.
Because he was Strider for a long time. He was the king, and then he was this whatever.
He fought in wars with Rohan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could go for that.
Yes, but there's no suspense.
Well,
he has to live.
Yeah, it has to be about characters that you are not sure.
Tell that to James Cameron and Titanic. Come on.
No,
number one movie of all time. Well,
I just want to say.
No. I'm not saying that he has to live because he's the hero. I'm saying he has to live because you know that he takes part in the War of the Ring.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
But yeah.
And you could have a secondary character or a love interest for, before he fell in love with the other girl, what happens to her.
Yeah.
But I just want to go on record on one thing. I love young Indiana Jones.
I'm thinking a 12-episode Tom Bombadil spinoff is totally fine, right? Everybody's in for that.
Yeah. Speaking of the episode 11 of Lord of the Rings, that's basically the episode 7 of Lord of the Rings.
We never got Tom Bombadil in the movie.
I think we were all pretty happy.
He's not necessary to the plot at all.
Yeah.
It'd be like Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure. I mean, that's Tom Bombadil. Come on.
I heard the Silmarillion was actually being made into. I thought that was already being made into a film.
I think
a new series.
Also, I mean,
another film trilogy. Something.
From what I remember when I read it, and I don't remember it well, it was a series of different stories, and only one of them was decent. In the Silmarillion, the rest read like summaries of the history of Middle Earth. The villain was very flat. It was like Sauron's forerunner.
Yeah, there's going to be a great evil presence. I mean, whatever they end up doing, they've got to do it right because they've invested a historical amount of money already, and just for the rights, $250 million for the rights, and that's before they even start. That's before they make one Hobbit shoe.
Well, looking at the live chat comments, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Kelly Young is not on board for the Lord of the Rings prequel.
No, I was actually commenting on Hector Plasmic's post there. He's obviously a fan of National Lampoon's Board of the Rings.
No, you want to see Goldberry bathing. That's all you want to see.
The thing is, whatever they do, you have to care about the characters, no matter how much production's involved. I mean, I'm saying something that's completely obvious, but although I will say, in watching the entire Hobbit trilogy, I held my breath, Pete, always wondering if Bilbo was going to make it.
I did not get through the Hobbit movies. I watched the first one, and I watched I think half of the second one, and then I honestly, God, I gave up. I was like, this is
It wasn't worth it.
I really enjoyed them.
Well,
Did you?
No,
somebody liked them. They made $1 billion, but what me?
2-hour movie would have been fine. Focused on Bilbo. The whole idea of a love affair between a dwarf and an elf, it just didn't work.
You're such a racist.
It was preposterous. The combat was all preposterous.
Nature finds a way, Matthew.
My problem.
Dwarfs find a
Love
way.
will find a way.
If anybody, my problem was the third movie. Is you had this annoying villain who you wanted to see killed off, and he got away. You remember the guy who was dressing up as a woman and everything?
Yeah, the mayor of the town.
Yeah. And I was just going, I've been waiting this whole movie to see him get killed. I wanted to see him get crushed by an ogre, you know? And that didn't happen, and I was frustrated.
Chopped up and eaten by hobbits.
Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I couldn't. I just wasn't on board from the beginning, unfortunately.
Kelly, can I just ask what the hell is on your banner?
What? I'm not sure. What did you put this time?
I didn't. I don't have any control over that.
First of all, former. And second of all, if you ever use the words gay actor, you don't really need to put in porn. We can probably just make the leap.
You can do that gay acting math.
Sure, that's true.
All this Hollywood talk does make me want to ask Philip something, Philip, because I have been wondering why exactly you encouraged Harvey Weinstein to follow through on his public masturbation fantasies.
Let me tell you something about me and Harvey Weinstein.
Jesus, this show is a family show, isn't it?
Listen,
It's
I said
meant
to
to
Harvey,
be.
I says, Harvey, keep it in your pants, buddy.
And leave that ficus alone, for God's sakes.
Yeah, he and Louis C.K. apparently, they both suffer from the same masturbatory disease, exhibitionism. I don't know.
Yeah,
I honestly don't know what the hell people are doing anymore.
Your city is imploding. Hollywood is on fire right now, dude.
Another day, another sexual
You know what?
harassment.
Somebody posted the other day after the Louis C.K. thing. They were like, "Well, it was some post." And they're like, "Well, I guess that's just Hollywood for you." And I was like, first of all, hold on.
What?
Like, all the creeps are in Hollywood is such a myth. Like, yeah, we have our share, but I guarantee you, just because they're a little more popular and well known, they get outed more. I'm sure the guys living in deep Missouri or southern Indiana are doing some pretty weird shit. And nobody cares because they're not making $100 billion movies.
Related to them. So.
And second of all, Louis C.K. and isn't from Hollywood. He's from New York. I blame New York. What's the water?
We also have some politicians who aren't from Hollywood.
Let's go to Washington and see how creepy that gets.
Yeah. Yeah, and to answer your question, Pete, yes, this is meant. It's meant to be a family show, and then it goes off the rails usually every episode. So,
I had whiskey in my Coke, so that's what happened there. I don't know what Kelly's drinking.
Yep.
I had a little Coke in my whiskey.
Blame the alcohol. That's fine.
I started this morning drinking.
And you haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, well, because Mandy went away Friday evening and left me alone with the chitlins. I woke up at 7 o'clock this morning and opened a beer. And we have no beer left in the house. It's all gone. I drank it all today.
Did you carb up in preparation for being with the kids all day?
Yes. Carbs and alcohol are the way I get through, spending time with my girls.
Did you send her away because she came and she gave without taking, or?
Oh, God.
Just curious.
She's a fine girl. What a good wife she would be.
All right, you guys lost me.
Is there anything else we were going to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's try and be professional here, for fuck's sake.
I think Pete just turned into Ego the Living Planet on me over there.
We can talk about what we've been reading.
what should I pick here? I've got like 3 different requests from. What would be the best for the next 15 minutes or so
can I
here?
talk about a couple books?
Sure.
Okay, this is
Whatever can make people forget about what we just talked about.
all right. I just got
stiff
this
drink.
in the mail. Okay. Now, this isn't going to be readily available.
A little close.
I see a giant white
Further away.
light. I feel like I'm going to heaven.
It is.
Yeah, I don't. Whatever you need to name that title. Oh,
It is a
Appel de
French
Cthulhu?
version, a French language translation of the Call of Cthulhu, but the art by Francois Barranger is just magnificent. I mean,
It feels like Matthew is interrogating us.
This is
There are
Inspector
3
Legrand.
lights.
yeah. I'm sorry for whatever it is I did.
It's like the art is magnificent. You have to order it from Amazon in France, and it is. Kelly, this is the kind of book you probably would love. The art is just gorgeous. So
Send that to me.
I would, except I want to keep it.
It looks huge.
It is. It's well oversized. There's nowhere to put it on my bookshelf. I just carry it around and
First world
cuddle
problem.
up with it at night.
Well, I haven't gotten it yet, but for Pete, the illustrated Lovecraft came out with 4 volumes, and one of them has Herbert West Reanimator in it.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, there's another book that I got, and this is just stunning. Did you get this one too, Kelly? It's called Carcosa.
Take my Dramamine with you walking around like that.
Is this a book or the game Carcosa?
No, it's the book. It's
I
another.
saw Kelly had the game, right, Kelly?
Yeah, I did, but I want that book. That looks cool.
It's a huge, oversized art book.
You need to build bigger shelves.
Look, I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah.
You can also see the porn you're watching.
The audio listeners can't see it though.
Well, the art is glorious. The creator is Michael Hutter. It's called Carcosa. It just sort of tells a story with pictures.
It's got no text.
No,
That's
not
cool.
really. It's gorgeous.
That is perfect for me.
It looks very good from what I'm seeing, but I just want the viewers to understand what it is.
I can't. They're so big, and I'm too klutzy, and I don't have any light in this room because we don't have any lights in this room.
Matt, someone's asking what was the title of the Cthulhu book again?
It is a French translation of the Call of Cthulhu. It's just a word-for-word translation into the French.
It's like La Appel
L'Appel
de Cthulhu.
Yes, but it's the illustrations are by Francois Berenger. I am talking with the French accent, so you can understand me better.
Yeah.
A very bad one, yes.
Do we pronounce Cthulhu differently in French? That is a question. Is it Cthulhu?
Mon Dieu. No, it's the illustrations are just gorgeous. In both of these books, they're magnificent. So if you've got a little bit of money to throw away, it's not the book's not terribly expensive considering the Call of Cthulhu, but it's the shipping from France that kind of sucks.
I've got to ask Kelly something. What is this Carcosa game?
It's the game that they did a Kickstarter for last year, and it is very cool. As far as figurines, which I know all of us here like, that's not what this game is about. They've got some very basic markers for game stuff, but it does come with some really beautiful art pieces in it, and I do love art, and also I just try to support everybody who's doing something cool in this genre. This whole genre is kind of held up by the community, so whenever I see somebody doing something that looks cool and they're doing a good job with it, I try to throw money at them.
Hector, they're not dolls, they're action figures, damn it.
Well, I'm going to post some of these pictures from Carcosa because they're just unbelievable.
Okay.
And you can buy this from regular Amazon?
I don't know where the hell I got it.
If you
I'm looking for it now, and I'm not seeing it on Amazon.
Look under Michael Hutter.
Yeah, Paul.
Just go to Amazon.fr, and basically, if you type anything in English, it usually just shows up. I shop on all the different Amazons all the time, so it might show up.
Oh, okay, good to know. All right, I'd like to just touch on at least one question from a listener.
Okay.
Let me just read this, and we don't have to spend a hell of a lot of time on it. You know, maybe 10 minutes at the most or so. But he says, "I'd like to hear thoughts on what makes for a good review and an informative review. What elements of the work," he mentioned Matt at the beginning, "what elements of the work should always be reviewed, and what elements are less important? See in positive reviews besides," I think this is an important question, "what do writers prefer to see in positive reviews besides 'I liked it, this guy rocks'? What about publishers? How should negative feedback be couched in light of these questions beyond avoiding intolerable bleeding of trolls we see so often, but more specifically in a manner that's constructive to the author and not hopefully as damaging to sales?" Okay, first of all, Matt has been reviewing books for a very long time, so I'm sure he's got some things to talk about, to touch on here. And I do think, again, this should answer this. What do writers prefer to see in positive reviews besides 'I liked it'? You know. So, who wants to start?
Well, I can start. I mean, okay,
Yeah.
a couple things. First of all, one of the things that if you're going to write a book review, I think, first of all, you have to read the book thoroughly and carefully. I mean, this sounds ridiculous, but it's the kind of thing where if you're just going to kind of flip through it and not actually digest the whole thing, you're not reading it to write a review. Often, if I think I'm going to write a review, I might even have a little piece of paper or a little notebook beside me, and I might make comments about specific lines I liked, but I also note like typographical errors when I'm reading it. So there's some books that are pretty dreadful, and they take me forever to read, and I always feel if I'm going to write a review on those, it's very difficult if I've read two or three things in between. It's almost like you have to consume the book directly and then put your thoughts on paper. So that's number one. Number two, and this is just me, I think the book needs to be, if you're going to write a good review, it has to be in context. So hopefully, if you're going to write a review about something that is Lovecraftian, you've read Lovecraft, and maybe you've read a fair amount of the popular fiction, so you have a basis for comparison. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like this is part of me doing my homework as a reviewer if I'm going to try and be fair to the work. The other thing is, I think you need to be honest. In other words, you can't say, well, I don't want to write a review or I'm afraid I'm going to offend somebody because they're my friend, or I want them to be my friend, or I want to be a Facebook companion. Do you see what I mean? It's like you've got to be able to like just say, well, I'm going to put a blind eye to that, and I'm just going to put my honest opinion. Now, on some really dreadful books, I've been caustic, but I'm not. There is a famous Lovecraftian scholar who is positively vitriolic, and he will write stuff like, "This hopeless hack shouldn't ever write again," talking about Brian Lumley. You know, it's like, I think you need to be able to like
the quote unquote hack, not the reviewer.
Correct. Right. It's like, so I think that you've got to be able to be an honest critic. So you're not trying to curry someone's favor, and similarly, you're not trying to poke someone in the eye because you don't like them. Okay, so
right.
that I think that's trying to maintain your own personal integrity, which I think is important. And then this is all very general, but the last thing that's important to me is when I write down about a book, I want everyone to try and understand what I liked or didn't like about it. So I'm trying to make myself understood. So I have to say, this is a really good read. These are really cool characters. Ooh, action. It's like, to me, those reviews mean nothing. They're useless. It's like, I liked these characters because this was a clever plot point because what the author did was, I recently, I've been so busy at work, I've not been doing a lot of reviewing, but I recently read a book called Witch Tower, and I didn't care for it. And one of the things I commented on was it was written in a strange tense. So, you're used to first person past tense, third person past tense. Charlie Strauss has written a novel in second person. This was first person present tense.
Yeah, that's
The
done.
worst.
That's done fairly often. I'm not a fan of it.
And then I died.
Yeah, well, it didn't work too well,
No, it's no, Kelly. It's then now I'm dying.
Oh,
first
God damn
person.
it! Yeah, you're right.
So I'm these are the things that I look at. I look at, like, if there are a lot of typographical errors, it might mean that the book was rushed to publication and not given a thorough vetting. I want to know, was it published by a reputable publisher, or was it self-published? Because that might also tell you if someone got reasonably good editorial feedback. A lot of the things that are put out now get no feedback whatever. And so my view is, like, I'm trying to be honest, I'm trying to be in context, I'm trying to be fair to the book, and then I want people to understand why I liked it or didn't. I don't know.
That's very concise. I appreciate that. Well, thanks.
So I'm going to build on what Matt just said, because I do spend a lot of time reviewing books for the New York Review of Science Fiction, and very early I reviewed a self-published book that I thought was really, really good, and I couldn't understand why it was self-published. And I'm reading that it's really good. It's an apocalyptic tale, and the guy is broken away from his captors, and he's hiding in essentially a foxhole with a person, and he's telling this person the story of how he got here, and doing a really great job, well developed, all this and that and the thing. And then 3/4 of the way through the book, this person dies, and the main character is hauled away, and there's no change in the conversation. He's still telling the story in the same manner he was before. No tense change, nothing. But the person he's been talking to is dead. So now what is the motivation to tell the story? Who are you telling the story to? Just doesn't make any sense anymore.
An editor.
An editor would have caught that. Yeah.
Exactly.
And as Matt properly pointed out, it's hard to be in this community and write a fair review. And one of the things I've been talked about is that you have to do a balanced review. Somebody picked this book out to publish. So why? There had to be good things in this book. Somebody wanted to publish it. But so you have to figure out what are the good points and what are the bad points. And I just finished reading and reviewing a book that is marketed as Lovecraftian. It's the start of a new series, and I can't find one damn thing in it that's Lovecraftian. And it's a really good book, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the Cthulhu mythos.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a problem I have. And I want to hear these things. I've been posting on my Facebook page. If you have comments about the Peaslee papers, I want to hear them. I want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. What did I get right? What did I get wrong? Because it's how I'm going to grow as a writer. And that may sound strange, but it's the truth. I want to get feedback. I want to know what people liked. When it came to Reanimatrix, lots of people liked the sex scenes. Lots of people didn't. But yeah, those kinds of things. So,
Philip, you had some thoughts.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could give you my perspective on well, first I want to say that my new novella is coming out next week in a very limited fine press edition. It's not an out of the left field plug because it is written in first person present tense, which is why I thought of it.
I do like some books. There's
it's called Shiloh.
The Night Country by
Available soon.
Stuart Onan is written in first person.
Yeah.
So it's written in present tense. Let's put it that way. And I enjoy that book. And there's others I've enjoyed. It's not my first choice, I guess.
If done well in the right story, I think it can bring. Hey, I just wrote a story. I think it brings an urgency.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah.
It puts the reader, it puts the reader into what's the events of the story in a different way, and it makes it more urgent. It makes you feel like things are happening in real time. So done right, it can be effective. What I was going to say about the reviews, though, is, I'll say two things. The first thing I was going to say was, I don't write as a writer, as part of the community. To Matt and Pete's point, I personally don't write negative reviews because, for two reasons, which segues into my second point. The main reason I don't write negative reviews is because I don't believe that my opinion should be enough to deter somebody else from reading the work, unless the work is so bad that there is no subjectivity to it. It's just on its face. There's a smell that nobody's going to want to put to their nose. Then right. I'll say something about it. Armada, for example. But if they're for the most part, I feel like books are art. Stories are pieces of art. They're very, very subjective. Many people will look at the same painting and come away with very different thoughts. They'll listen to the same piece of music and come away with very different thoughts. And I don't think what bothers me with reviews, to answer the question that the person asked, is I don't like reviews that come off as being totalitarian. Well, I've had reviews of my own work where people are like, this is terrible. This guy is a terrible writer. Nobody should read this book. But I've had enough reviews that are the opposite. Mom. Yeah, that's Uncle Jack.
That was you, Kelly? Okay, yeah.
I've had enough people tell me the opposite to know that it's more an anomaly than not with somebody who feels that strongly in a negative way. So I guess my point is, I think the second thing is I feel like reviews should be told as presented as what they are, which is a subjective opinion from one person on a piece on a piece of artwork. And I've had many conversations with writers who are well, I fear a bad review, I fear a one-star review. It's like, if you didn't get bad reviews, if you didn't get differentiating responses, then what you are doing is not art. It's something very technical. It's an object. But if it's art, then people will have opinions, and those opinions will vary wildly because that's what makes it art. It's what makes it a creative exercise. And you have to take the good with the bad, and you have to realize that at the end of the day, what you're creating, what you're putting out there is a reflection of you as an artist. And it's what you think is good or bad as the artist that matters. If I put something out that I think is bad, A, I'm not going to put it out, but B, it's a detriment to the people that I'm trying to sell or distribute that work to, which is why I try very hard not to do that, as most artists do. So I think that reviewers, to answer the question directly, if what I think are negative about reviewers is when they wholesale claim something as being good or bad versus just giving a very subjective opinion about what they liked, what they didn't like, what they thought was done well, what they thought was not done well, what they found was of interest, what they found was not of interest, and kind of presenting it in that fashion. I think when it's presented is more of an ultimate.
Yeah, some reviews are presented as this is a fact. I'm presenting this as pretty much a fact to you that this is a bad book and this guy's a terrible writer. No, this is your opinion.
Right, and that's what writers have to remember.
You have a right to your opinion, but it is only an opinion.
Right, and that's what reviews are. They're opinions, and the way I've heard it phrased is, a lot of very, politically correct or a kind way of saying it is I did not connect with this writer, or this writer is not my cup of tea, or not the kind of thing that I, gravitate toward or that I enjoy reading. That's all fine. And then, but that's my thing from the author's perspective. I love reviews, good or bad, that actually talk about things that they like or didn't like and why they like or didn't like them. I do not like reviews that are mean-spirited and that simply say this guy is terrible, he doesn't know what he's doing, which is what unfortunately a lot of reviewers, especially amateur Amazon or Goodreads reviewers, tend to do. And that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help people reading the review. It doesn't help the author, and there's no positive outcome for something like that. So my 2 cents on reviews.
All right. Anybody else? Rick, you have anything to say on it, or no? Okay. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Are you guys around? Matt and Kelly told me that they were. Are you guys around next Sunday? Should we do a show? I've got it listed as no, but we can, since we haven't had shows for a couple of weeks, maybe we can do it.
I'm on board.
I should be here.
Pete?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm on board. I just want to mention one thing. That Carcosa book that Matt was
Sure.
plugging, it looks like there are only 33 copies of it.
Yeah.
You have to order directly,
Okay.
and he may be sold out by now, from the author.
Yeah, I put a link up to his page on the eZine message.
Well, for those listening, where'd you find it? Those listening later?
I did a search for it, and I got a page of his.
Okay, you Googled it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it looked like it was 150 euros.
Yeah, it's kind of expensive.
It's expensive.
What did you Google specifically so people can get
Michael Hutter Carcosa.
Michael Hunter Carcosa?
Hutter. Hutter.
Michael Hutter Carcosa.
Hutter. Like in Jabba the Hutt.
All right, Hutter. All right, thanks. Prize again was what, Matt?
Okay, it is
The Carcosa book.
Yeah, like
Oh, he's sending that to Kelly.
yeah, Kelly, you can keep checking the mail every day. It might get there. It's this really lovely graphic novelization of Lovecraft's life by Sam Gafford and Jason Eckhart, put out by PS Publishing.
Some notes on a non-entity. So just put that in the title of the email. And the email, you'll send it to lovecraftezineprizes@gmail.com.
And
lovecraftezineprizes@gmail.com. Yeah.
You're still going to draw for Never Bet the Devil and the Unhallowed books.
Yeah, it's been a little hectic for me the last couple of weeks. I will do that drawing tomorrow and email the winners.
Good, because I have to go to the post office every day now. And
what? Why?
Because we're selling stuff on eBay. And
oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Paul, good to see you. It was great to see Joe. And
that was cool.
Yeah, surprise. I don't think we'll see him again for a while because of his rehab, but it was nice to see him today.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next